I have a little bit of a shorter review for this video. This is something I plan to do a lot more often, just shorter, off-the-cuff reviews. I was originally planning on doing this as a sort of weekly thing, but I can't keep a schedule to save my life, and so I think I'll just kind of do these whenever I find a level interesting to talk about. Sort of like what I used to do with levels like Stack or Ultimate, except for the reviews are going to be much more lowbrow, and I'll give my thoughts a lot faster. In this case, we're going to be talking about the level What by Spu7Nix. This level was praised to death when it came out, and for all the right reasons. This is basically a better version of How by Spu7Nix, and if you don't know, both of these levels were actually made, for the most part, outside of the GD editor using third-party programs and what I can only describe as porting code. Basically, he would create code outside of GD and then use a tool to port that code into GD and translate it into triggers. So a lot of this wasn't built in the editor, it was sort of built using third-party tools, which is very interesting. If that concept sounds outrageous or insane to you, it's really not. People have been using code to assist in creating in the editor for a long time. Whether or not it's been this high profile, yeah, I don't think so, but people have been using tools like Geometrize to GD for a long time, and using DLLs to inject mods into GD is kind of common practice, and we've seen tools like BetterEdit be used pretty often. However, Spu7Nix is a step above, as it's getting to the point where he's literally taking models from Blender and porting them into GD, which is absolutely insane. Due to that, however, this level does suffer from one major problem, and that is this level will drop your frames bad. It isn't as bad as it was in 2.1. In 2.1, the level didn't get rated because of its performance issues and the fact it would cause so many issues for the game. You are basically required to use the 4 gig patch on PC, which is absurd. But in 2.2, the level runs fine, and so it actually got a rate, which is nice to see. However, even with the rate, it still has some pretty bad performance issues, and you can definitely see that. I can run most levels at an average of 700 FPS, however, this drops me down to around 100. And keep in mind, I have a pretty average gaming rig. It's above what most people have, and if you have what most people have, like if you're just on a low-brow laptop or something, yeah, you're probably not going to be able to run this level, which is definitely not the greatest. However, given the circumstances, I can definitely understand that. So as for the level itself, we open up on this cube part, which is already amazing and spectacular. However, it's definitely holding back, and I think that's smart. I think in terms of blowing people away with this level, Spu7Nix definitely held his cards properly in showing something that was jaw-dropping, but he didn't just lay all his cards on the table immediately. He wanted to keep hitting people with punch after punch to make the level just look better and better. That way he could shock people as the level goes on, and he definitely did a good job at that. I do have two minor complaints with this cube part, but they're minor and they're not that big of a deal. The first is that the cube rotation itself looks kinda goofy. I don't know why, it just reminds me of the old school cube rotation from like the first half of GD's updates, like 1.0 up to around 1.6. The math for the cube rotation was different, and so the cube would almost always like jut into place. It's weird and it's hard to explain, and it definitely is something you can see with the cube. The movements are very violent when you land on the blocks. The other thing is that the jump pads in and of themselves are blocks at the end of this cube part, and I'm gonna be honest, I always thought that looked kinda goofy. We then enter a wave part, which is reminiscent of the wave part in How, and considering that was definitely the most iconic part of How, I definitely get why that was chosen to be the returning part for What. And it's better here. It controls better, it looks better, there's less trail bugs. This part in How didn't work the best because there were a lot of visual bugs and there would be a lot of cutting and just a lot of weird issues. In this case, though, it looks and plays perfectly, and that's definitely a good thing. I did notice that the hitboxes feel a little bit large in this part, and by the way, I should probably mention the hitboxes. This level doesn't have any. All of the hitboxes are created using triggers, and the cube is actually in the same place the entire level. I'm not even going to begin to wrap my head around how that works, but basically everything is a collision trigger, and so Spu7Nix basically created his own hitboxes, which is so wild to think about. But in the wave part in particular, that might have actually hurt it more than helped it, just because the hitboxes for these little blocks tend to jut out and kill the wave in places that you wouldn't expect, so you have to play the level in a very formulaic and straight-to-the-point way. You can't really do any out-there movements, so that's a little bit but for the most part, it's fine. We go into the ship part, which, I'll be honest, as cool as it is, fails to stick out to me as much. On top of that, I find that the controls for this little makeshift ship are a little bit slippery. I don't know why, I just always had a really hard time controlling it, because it feels like it goes up and down way too fast, and on top of that, same issue as the wave. The hitboxes always jut out in a way that's kind of hard to describe. And from here on out, the level is just gonna be auto. Yeah, I don't get this. I really don't. The whole idea is that the level becomes auto because it flashes different sections from different levels at you, and while I get the idea, and that's kind of a cool idea, I don't know, I feel like this is kind of conflicting with the first half of the level, because it goes from being, you know, this super amazing 3D model-esque thing to just the normal cube with a bunch of normal levels flashing in the background. I think this part is way less spectacular than the rest of the level, and I don't think this part was made to be impressive like the rest of the level. I think it was made to just simply tribute old GD levels, and for that I get it. But I don't know, it just stands out as way less spectacular. I will say, though, some of the references here are very deep, like, Spu7Nix definitely cares about effect levels. After that, we go down a little staircase, which, of all things, reminds me of Dear Nostalgists for some reason. And then we fall, we see the 2.1 goodbye screen thingy. Basically, it just says 2.1 and shows the GD logo, and then it switches to 2.2 for the last frame. And then we hit the normal GD screen as the normal GD cube. So I think my problem with this level at the end of the day is that the second half is significantly less impressive than the first half to me. And even then, I will say a lot of Spu7Nix's projects have kind of lost their magic on me, just simply because knowing that half of the stuff in this level was made in Blender, honestly, even just cut that back, just knowing how a lot of this was made, period, does kind of kill the magic a little bit. Like, with the level How, I thought the backgrounds, like, specifically these little spinning spheres, were really impressive until I watched Spu7Nix's video on how it was made, and I knew exactly how it was made. And it's like, yeah, that's clever. It kind of kills the magic of it, though. I feel like it's better when you don't know how these levels were made, and considering I know, it just comes across as a little bit less impressive, as I know a lot of this was done with code and 3D modeling. Despite all that, I will still say, even knowing everything I know, it is a surreal feeling playing this level, because it doesn't feel like it was meant for the GD editor. Probably because it wasn't. Most of the things were made in Blender, but that's kind of the point. It feels really, really odd playing this level, because I don't know, it's the same feeling I get playing something like 3-, and it's in the official game, so that's just a really weird feeling. Despite the fact I don't find the level as impressive as other people do, it's still a visual spectacle, and it's still an amazing level. I would give what a 9 out of 10.